everybody. My name is Gregory Santiago, and welcome to Your Medicare and You, by choice, the senior podcast. And today, I'm so glad that we're going to have a few minutes to talk because I have a special guest. We're going to work this a little bit different. As you know, in every weekly episodes, we talk about Medicare coverage, deductible plan, the agents, and all that. But due to COVID, I was asked to find some new resources. And you might ask, what are you talking about? The resources help with hope when somebody passed away, grieving, how to deal with that. Because the senior homes that I'm visiting, explaining, showing the directory, I was confronted with one of the managers told me, I'm a property manager. I don't deal with this. I'm not trained for this. So what do? You find somebody that's been trained for that. They have the heart. And in this day, after this introduction, I want you to meet. I just met her, but over the phone and email, I know she has a kind heart. She's a woman of faith. And I want you to meet Darren Nelson. She's a senior care consultant, and she's here especially for you. Good morning, Karen. How are you, Darren?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you took the challenge to come and spend some time and share your heart with them. And let me ask you something. I want them to know you.
Okay.
How did you get into this industry?
I'll try to be concise. So I'm in my 50s. Mm-hmm. So when I first started in my career, I had a psychology degree, no master's though, and I went into sales. Mm-hmm. And I also became an interior designer. I had my own company. Mm. But then as life happens, my father got ill with cancer, and it was a bad cancer, MDS. It's basically just a severe form of leukemia. Mm. So I was 42, and I had never experienced a death that was that close to me. Of course, my grandparents had passed, right?
Yes.
I'll try to be concise with this. But as I went through the process of him becoming ill, of how we all accepted it and didn't, different parts of the family, how we all reacted to it, how he reacted to his illness. Mm-hmm. He was a man of faith. And I remember he was going to have a stem cell transplant. And I asked him, Dad, I know you, and I know you don't want to do this. Why are you doing this? And he said, one day you'll understand. We do things for people sometimes because we love them, not for us. And he knew that my brother and his wife were not ready for him to leave this earth. So, like I said, this was also new to me. So going through the emotions, the ups and downs, the decisions, the choices, I was so unprepared. All of us were unprepared. Mm-hmm. Of course, he did die in the hospital, and that was another thing for me that was so upsetting. He didn't know he had a choice. He didn't have to die in the hospital. He could have gone home and had hospice and been with his dog and his family, and we could have reminisced, and it could have been much different.
Yeah.
So subsequently, 2 months after that, my mother-in-law, who was my best friend, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She saw what my dad had gone through, and when the physician came in a room full of family in the hospital room and said, Joyce, you have pancreatic cancer. Immediately, she said, call hospice. So she knew she was not going to put herself and us all through that. And that's not to say that I suggest that. It's everybody needs to know they have an option. They have a choice. Yeah. So let's get into what we want to talk about, which is resolving these feelings, or the feelings of mainly grief.
Grief.
Because grief is a human emotion. It is what we all go through when we have a loss. And it's not necessarily just the loss of a person that we love. It can be the loss of a job, the loss of our freedoms, being isolated. That can cause grief. And that's another reason why you asked me here is you and I are both seeing communities, senior communities, seniors who are in their homes even,
Yeah.
they are the ones that are being most affected during this pandemic. It is heartbreaking to see this. They are basically in jail. You and I discussed that. They cannot go anywhere because they are so, what's the word?
They're protecting them in the
Yes.
senior homes.
Yes.
And when they have their own homes, they're scared.
They are. And fear, I'm going to step out and be a woman of faith. Fear is not of God.
Mm-hmm.
But we are fearful when we don't know
Yes.
and we aren't with others. When we're isolated, I don't believe it's where we're supposed to be as humans. We're meant to be communal.
Yes.
So the grief of being alone is one.
Yes.
The grief of loss of freedom is another. And the grief also of the state of our world.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not just one type of grief. There's a lot of different levels. And I feel that most of us in America, we don't discuss this.
No.
Grief is not a happy thing to talk about. Grief is, a lot of times people, if you're grieving your mother, for example, you've just lost her, we're fearful of that because if we talk to you and we go there with you, then we're reminded that we might die or we're going to lose our mom. So that's another thing that I'm very passionate about. We must talk about these things so that we can move through them and emerge on the other side.
Yes. When I was talking with her name, I don't think she's going to get Robbie.
That's okay. I do that all the time. But you probably know her by face.
And she said, Greg, they're asking who's next. They're kind of losing, you know. So the idea is to, what can is available for them so they can hope, they can have hope while they're in their little apartments, in their enclosure, you know, they isolated.
Yes.
And one thing that she asked me is, how did they deal with the death of their friend, the neighbor? You know,
Well, there's many answers to that question. I'll start with a very important answer. Like we were just saying, is being isolated and not being able to have family come in often, right? At the different levels that we're getting to, and then we're getting down to not having a lot of cases, so we're able to have a little bit of connection with our family. But right now we're at red level.
Yep.
So the communities that I've seen that are helping these seniors, one of the things that they're doing is they're having someone like me come in and sit with the residents and talk about and have them talk, because we are not alone in our feelings. It is a human feeling to grieve. It's a normal process to have grief, to have sadness, to feel loss, for all of those different reasons we're talking about.
Yeah.
But if we talk about it and we acknowledge it and we know we're not alone in it, we can handle anything. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
So they're not doing that, I don't think.
No.
Because I believe that in our society, we don't deal with those things. We push them aside. That's not pleasant. Come on, hurry up. Get over your grief. Why are you so sad? It's been a month. There's no timetable for grief. That's another thing we really need to understand.
Everybody's different.
Every death is different.
Every death.
So you might grieve your wife, say your wife passes, for a long time. And really forever until you meet her again. Because grief is also a byproduct, or it's the fact that we loved someone, which is wonderful. But we have to be vulnerable to love, even though we know we're going to lose that person.
Yes.
And how beautiful is that? So really, my suggestion for seniors is talk to others. If you're isolated in a community, even at home, there's so many things that you can do to not be alone. If you have a platform or a person or people or even a therapist, I know a lot of times we don't want to talk to therapists. We think, oh, something's wrong with me. Well, we're all human.
Yeah.
All of this is normal. That's another thing. We need to normalize grief and loss, right?
Yes.
It is not something that you go through, but I don't, right? So as long as we can, like I said, talk about it and know that we have places to go to talk about it, I think we can all get through this.
Yeah.
The positive side to grief, though, when we get on the other side of it, when we move through it, I believe we're more compassionate, we're more kind. It's one of those things that you don't want to join that club, but when you join that club, it changes you. And in my opinion, it's an opportunity to come out on the other side better. So we have to have hope.
Yeah.
They have to have hope because there's hope every day. We just have to choose to look at those things, not at the negative.
Yeah.
But grief is not negative. I don't want people to understand that.
No.
But they do need to understand that it's going to get different.
It's the grieve. I'm talking about grieving. My mom passed away a few years ago, and people were telling me, "Oh, you're so strong," and I have faith, and but it hurts.
Yes.
And then when I was alone,
Yes.
nobody was watching,
You were crying or you were mourning.
and then you cry, and then you say, "Lord, I need strength. I
Yes.
need." She lived 90 years. She plenty of years, but
Be careful of that. Just because she lived 90 years, you still miss her.
exactly. But I remember when I used to go and kiss her, bite, kind of little bites, and every time I went to the house, it wasn't gonna happen.
Little
And
things you miss. You miss little things.
little things, and I felt this is happening for me. I was on my way to see her, and my sister called. She got visit, so I was 1 block from their place, and I said, she's not gonna be able. You're not gonna spend time with her because she's with people. So I turned around
Oh.
to give her time with her friends, and that night she passed away.
Well, I hear a lot of this because I've worked in the hospice field and I'm an end of life doula. And we can talk about that at another time. But so often we have those regrets. I didn't tell mom goodbye. I wasn't there when she took her last breath. But what I see oftentimes is the dying choose often to pass when they know that, say, maybe you couldn't have handled that.
It was.
It was a decision that she
Yeah.
made, I believe. So have peace in that.
So that's for the seniors that the neighbor passed away, and they didn't see them because of COVID. They're hanging around with their pain because
Yes.
they don't
Don't know what to do with it. Yeah. And again, the communities that I see that are helping with, because we are going to have that pain, that loss,
Yes.
is when we can, within that community, you can speak to each other. So don't be afraid to have those conversations and to reach out to that person that you see is hurting because you're hurting. Once we talk about it and once we start walking alongside one another, again, we could get through it.
So there's nothing wrong with to talk about it. And how about those people that they don't want to talk about it because are they hurting themselves by?
Well, I think, a lot of times my father was very stoic. And he would spank me. And then he'd say, now, after I spank you, if you want to cry or yell, go to your room. So all of those, any emotion that I had, anger, sadness, really, he pushed me, go to your room, because I believe now he couldn't handle it. And so one of the things when I did talk to those seniors was, being stoic is fine. But when you get to the point where you're in so much pain, please reach out. Because being vulnerable, to me, when somebody's vulnerable, that's when I love them the most.
And that's when they need the most love.
It is. Because I think that's when our souls connect. When we recognize that soul has the same feelings and pain we do, we connect.
Yes.
And then we can be vulnerable to them.
Exactly.
So I want to encourage even those that are afraid of those feelings, or they were taught not to talk about that, and to move through it, get over it. Just push through that pain or that uncomfortableness of being vulnerable with another person. Just a few minutes, and you'll get to the other side.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So reach out. Don't do this alone.
So everybody is going to be different.
Yes.
You need somebody to grieve healthy.
Yes. Yes, because if you, I'm trying not to be negative with this, but if you stop those feelings and you say, she wasn't my family, I shouldn't feel this way, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Don't put that on yourself, right? Allow yourself to feel those feelings, because if we stop those feelings or we don't address them and we don't move through them, we bypass them. They don't go away. What they do is make us, I've seen, more callous, more lonely, more going inward. We go inward. And that is unhealthy. It's not wrong or bad. It's just not good for you.
For you.
Right.
So we all know this life is temporary, but
Yes.
we don't get prepared. And then we don't know how to handle it when it hits us.
Yes. That's another reason that I went into end-of-life care. Because, again, my experiences with my family members were such that I was very fearful of death. I think a lot of us are. They say that most of us are more fearful of death than anything else. So when we talk about it and when we realize that we are temporary. We're here for a brief period of time. But America is very death phobic. We've taken death and we've isolated it in the hospitals, in the skilled nursing facilities, in the nursing homes. You go in the back room.
And we don't talk about it.
And okay, we don't talk about it. I don't want to talk about that. But the reality is we do die. And if we can talk about it and we can consciously live today knowing that we could die, let's not think that that's a negative thing. It can be positive because it keeps us in the present.
Yes. And you can enjoy the present.
Enjoy now. And don't push away those things that you need to do with your brother, or tell your husband how you really feel. Tell your friend. Be vulnerable with your friend. Reconcile. Make plans so that when you do pass, your children aren't left with all of that, right? That's a wonderful way, a legacy that you can give them, what you want.
Yes.
Because it's going to happen. So let's prepare.
Yes, exactly. Let's prepare. And have you noticed a difference between male and female, how they grieve?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit. I'm a guy, so...
Well, you kind of told me a little bit about your mother and how people would say how strong you were, right?
In that moment?
And when you were alone, right?
Yeah.
I see that. Oftentimes, men, they're raised differently, right? We don't want to do that as parents, but it's just natural. So boys are not to be crying. Don't cry. You need to be strong. Or if they do cry and show emotions, they're shamed often.
Yeah, they're weak.
You're the man.
Yeah.
You got to deal with this. Even little bitty children are told that.
Yeah, I know.
So you're conditioned your whole life as men. I'm not saying every man is. There are many men out there who aren't like this, but most are. So what happens when you have that intense emotion of loss and you're told that it's not okay?
You don't show it.
No. And you don't allow others in.
Yeah.
So again, it's not to say that you haven't mended from that, but it might have taken a little longer because that wasn't something that you felt that you could show others. And it's a gift to show others our vulnerability and our pain. Because as you start to grieve and show them that you are grieving and you feel this, and this is okay to cry, it's okay to do all of this, because there's a lot of emotions that go along with grief, not just sadness. Things can surprise you. Joy, right, can even be part of grieving. Laughter, I remember when my husband, I'm sorry, his grandmother passed before my grandparents did. And I loved his family. They were very fun. They loved to party, have a good time, get together. And we all gathered in Marble Falls, Texas to have her funeral. We were all in her home, and we were all very sad because we loved her. She was precious. But what they were doing was dressing up in her clothing and then sharing experiences and laughing. And I was so upset about that. How disrespectful. You're putting on their clothing and you're being silly and acting like how she, they were making fun in a loving way,
Yes.
remembering some of her idiosyncrasies.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, that's okay. That's all of us grieve
That's how they
differently.
dealt with it.
Yes, and we need to accept how we deal with it. So yes, back to your original question, men do tend to handle it differently.
Yes. And women,
Well, we're talkers, as you can tell. So we tend to express ourselves, quicker, freely, but not always. And at the same time, I was just talking about how grief is not really an acceptable topic or an emotion that we don't really feel comfortable with in others, much less ourselves. Even though women are more open, we talk more about our feelings, but grief's different. Loss is different. So that's something we all need to work on, male and female, in accepting each other for that emotion.
Yes. I think what I noticed in my little experience seeing people grieving, the grief brings back what I didn't do.
Regrets.
That you mentioned before. And that kind of makes it
Even harder.
even harder. So forgiveness has to come
Yes.
to the game because it's no way you can fix it.
No. No. And that's another reason, in my opinion, to have those conversations now. So if you do have a loved one that you need reconciliation with, we might think that I'm okay with that, right? We walk through our lives, that's okay. He doesn't want to talk to me either. But in reality, it is hurting us
Yes.
if we're really honest with ourselves, because any type of a break in relationship is not of God.
Yeah.
So that is going to come with you through your life and up to your death. And if we don't, in my opinion, talk about those things, reconcile, do what we need to do while we're here, because it will come back after. And isn't it better to talk to that person now? Even to the point of sometimes, well, it happens all the time when our loved ones are passing, if we are lucky enough to be there, because I've been at many bedsides. At a certain point, the patient is not able to speak. They're not lucid, if you will. But they can hear you. That's the last thing that goes. The last is their sense of hearing. And so I suggest to people, if you have something on your heart, talk then. They can't go anywhere. They're right there.
Yes.
And they want to listen to you.
Yeah.
So if it's heavy on your heart, or if it's something that you want to say to them, how wonderful how they raised you and how thankful you are, or it's okay to go now, Mom.
Yeah.
She wants to hear that too, I believe.
I believe so too. So, male and female grieve different.
For sure.
And the time of grieving,
Yeah.
it's,
There is no time limit.
there's no time limit. So if you're listening to this recording, this podcast, and you feel it was too quick, too short, or too long, there's no recipes, no
box.
table about so
No instructions.
No instruction has to be. So that should bring you healing. It should bring you knowing that everybody's gonna grieve different. It's gonna,
Yes.
It's I see people that they lost a son or a daughter,
Yeah. That's
and
unbelievable.
they cannot They're learning to deal with it, but they haven't finished.
No. And I think a loss of a child, I have never lost a child. I am assuming that that would be one of the worst pains, the worst loss
Yes, that's
to
what.
deal with.
Hmm.
But I do know someone who has lost a son. And the way she dealt with it was she started to go to a group of people who had lost their children.
Hmm.
And again, going back to you aren't alone, right?
Hmm.
So if you find a group of people who are feeling as you are, you're able to grieve together. You're able to heal together.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the night, you could reach out to that person because they're going to probably need to reach out to you in the middle of the night. So find, what I'm saying is find someone in your community, even if it's your executive director. You know, they're there too to hear you and listen to you. They have resources. The nursing staff there, they are trained to help you. If you feel like, I don't really want to tell anybody that I feel this way, go and speak to them because that's part of their job.
It's so. Times is flying.
I know. We've covered a lot.
Yes. So me, the best thing I can do, a senior, a person watching this video, what is the best you can do to help somebody grieve? Like in this place that, they have several deaths in a few months. And what can they do to help each other?
Acknowledge it, first of all. Acknowledge the death. Acknowledge the loss. Be vulnerable and listen to one another. There's a difference between listening and hearing.
Yes, big difference.
Oftentimes we are talking and just listening to respond.
How are we going to respond? Yeah.
But what we need to do and what brings the most healing, very oddly, is when we don't say anything and we allow that person no judgment, no response, just let them share their heart.
Yes.
They need to be heard. We all need to be heard. So if we allow each other to speak, talk, without offering, you're going to be okay, or rushing them through it, right?
Yeah.
Those little things we say to people because we're uncomfortable.
We don't know what to say.
The best thing to do is just listen. Just listen. They'll tell you what they need,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's, what is it, esoteric or out there, abstract. But hands-on is just be a community. If you're in a community, be one.
Be one. Be there.
And even if that community, that activities director or the nurse or the executive director is not bringing you together, well, darn it, you do it.
You start.
We all can be leaders. And if you're hurting, I guarantee you someone else is hurting.
Yes.
So step out and be that person.
So in the healing process, you might meet some new
Yes.
friends that you have something in common. You love or appreciate somebody, and you can help each other.
Yes.
And like you
Yes.
say, build a group, a community support center,
A family.
a family, and conquer this thing. I learned it's different.
Yes.
There's no time.
No time.
There's no shame.
No shame.
Everybody's gonna go in a different way to express it. I don't have to. Me as a male and the guys that will watch, if we need to cry in front of people, cry. It's not gonna
It doesn't diminish you as a man.
diminish you exactly, and it has an end.
It does. Well, let me say before we finish this,
Okay.
grief, grief, look at grief as a good friend.
Oh,
I know, isn't that weird?
yes.
But grief is going to be with you if you truly loved that person or loved
Yes.
that job or loved that relationship. It's part of you.
Yes.
So don't deny it. But it will get less sharp. The pain will not be as intense and it won't be with you all day, every day. It'll come in waves.
Yes.
And just let it roll over you and through you
Yeah.
and move through it. And it's okay.
Yeah. It's okay. Wow. This has been to me. I hope it's been a blessing to you to help you to cope with this situation that we're living. There is hope. I'm going to invite her to come back to continue the conversation because I believe it will be a benefit for you. They are out there alone. Maybe your kids are too far away. You don't feel. And we're here to do the best we can to help you. There's more podcasts. I'm going to bring somebody of faith to come and talk also, to talk about faith. Faith helps, in the grieving process. Not only grieving process.
It's life. We weren't guaranteed that this was going to be easy.
Yes, exactly.
Who said that? I don't know. It was a lie.
Well, my dad is 95 as we speak today. He said, Greg, when I was growing up, life is not fair. It started, let me tell you, so you know that it's not going to be fair. They smack you in the butt when you were born. So
Wake up.
they give you the chance that it's going to be, but it's what you do
Yes.
with it.
Move forward.
So, and that's what we have to do. We thank God. We grieve the people that have passed away, but at the same time, we thank God for the ones that are alive. I don't want to shortchange my family, my sister, my father, my son, my wife, the other family, because my mom won't appreciate that.
Yes.
And I know with your friends, your neighbors, in the same thing. I bet you they want life
To continue.
to continue. You know,
And acknowledge the presence and the person
yeah.
and honor them.
No.
Honor them. If there's something that they loved to do, they loved to dance, they loved crafts,
Paint,
whatever.
craft,
Bring it into your daily.
Yes.
And that's the way that we can remember them and honor them.
Yes. And there is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. I tell you, for in Harvey, Florida, Houston, and right there, my mom passed away.
Wow.
So it was a double and
Loss.
Loss. But I can tell you one thing. With faith and time,
Time heals all wounds, right? That's why they say that.
that's what they say that. And you continue. And sometimes I drove to the cemetery. I know she wasn't there. Sit down and say, hey, Mom.
Yeah. Or write a letter if you can't express it. Write a
Exactly.
letter.
Just talk and write the letter, get it out. Life is good. Enjoy today. Don't feel guilty. I'm not a counselor here, but
No, but you're doing well.
don't feel guilty to want to leave. Don't feel guilty that
Or
you have
even
hope.
relief. Even
Relief.
relief. Oftentimes our loved one is suffering.
Yes.
And I felt relief when my dad died. And I felt guilty.
My mom was hurting. And I look at her and talk with my wife, and I said, her mind was sharp, but her
She was
body,
suffering.
so much pain. Whenever you touch her,
Yes.
it hurt.
Yes.
And you say, Lord, when
What is happening? Why is this happening?
Yes,
So oftentimes we're ready for them to go. And that can bring us a lot of guilt.
yes.
But we don't want someone to suffer.
We don't want it. And that person didn't want you to stay in the grieving
No.
process either. So this is my 2 cents.
Yeah, you had some good ones.
But I love life. I love people. I love you. I'm doing this for you. And I'm going to bring more people. I'm going to bring Darren again. And we're going to continue talking on your behalf, bringing you tools so you get better. So until the next time, Darren, you want to say something before I want to give you the honor to close this podcast?
Close it up. Wrap it up. Well, I just want to encourage everybody, like Greg did, that they're not alone and there is hope. And this world is going to get better and it's going to heal.
Yes.
And it starts with us.
Yes.
One person at a time.
One person at a time. Thank you. Until the next time, stay safe. God bless.